Hello. In today's project, I'm going to show you a magical bookcase that I built that's so big, I can't even fit it on the camera.
It's alive!
Whenever I do one of these projects, people ask me for plans, but to be honest, I freehanded this and kind of made it up as I went along because I'd never built anything like this before. So in this video, what I'm going to try to do is show you the different techniques that I use to turn stuff like this into something absolutely wonderful and amazing. You can do this sort of thing too. It's just wood. You can shape it any way you want.
You can do it!
Now it's time to cut the curvy legs for our bookcase. I've taken two 3/4 inch plywood sheets and glued them together to make them super thick, 1.5 inches when they're together. So we have chunky legs because it's cartoonish. I wanted to be thicker. What I'm going to do is I'm going to draw a curved line along the 8-foot section of this so that I can cut the legs, in this case for the left side. Now I'm not terribly artistic, so what I've done is I've gotten this piece of wood from Rockler, which I'm using on another project, that is bendy. And I can take this and put it on the plywood and curve it and trace my curves so it looks like someone who knows what they're doing did it instead of me. The side walls of this bookcase are going to use a routed channel that I'm going to use this router to make, but I don't have an appropriate standoff. So I'm going to cheat. I'm going to use a couple of bolts to make an easy and simple way to have a standoff that I can repeat for all 4 legs of this contraption. Much like my lack of a standoff for the router, I also don't have a way to mark a line along the undulating legs of this contraption, so I'm going to make my own tool. And use this tool to trace a line that matches the curvy line that I just cut. If it's a stupid idea and it works, well then it's probably still a stupid idea, but it worked. Then I repeat the tracing and cutting. The bookcase sides are made out of Luan wood because it's bendy. All the pieces are finished, and I have glue, which means it's time for a cheesy assembly montage. Once you're finished building this, all you have to do is do exactly the same thing a second time to build the other side.
1 hour later.
Now that everything is sanded and clean, it's time to fill the edges of these plywood supports. They don't look very good and they're not going to paint well. So I'm going to use some plastic wood to put a cover on this and sand it down to make it as smooth on the sides as it is on the front. And now we wait.
The next day.
Now it's time to connect everything together. We're going to do that with 2 connectors up top and 2 connectors on the bottom. The connectors on the bottom are 2 pieces of wood that are glued together so that they're the same thickness as the vertical supports, and I've offset them so that I can put a shelf right here in the trough when it goes in place. It'll make more sense later. The top one is just a smaller piece of wood, double thickness, so we'll have bottom and top We got to cut these to fit.
First, I lay the sides on the floor in the positions they'll be in real life, and then I lay the connectors across them and trace the angles I'll need to cut. I'm using pocket hole screws to hold the top connectors in place. Pocket hole screws are sometimes unpopular because they aren't that strong, but in this case we're going to have a lot of other pieces holding the left and right sides together, so they'll be strong enough for our purposes. The bottom connectors are more of a challenge because they're more curvy and a straight cut won't work, so I have to trace the curves. The bottom connector is wider and has that secret compartment I talked about earlier, so I'm using 1/4-inch bolts to make it super strong.
Now all it needs is a back. I've got to route a channel all the way around the back to put the back plate in, so got to lay it back down. The router did a great job, and now I've got this trough running all the way around the back that I can put a 1/4-inch backer board in. Now this is a very curvy design, very difficult to measure, so I'm going to cheat. I'm going to lay this flat on top of the backer board and trace it. I don't care about measurements. Now it's time to put the shelves in. I'm going to clamp them from both sides, so the first step of this is take the back off.
The shelf supports will be recessed between the two legs. To ensure that nothing on this shelf is standard and to give some forced perspective, the shelves are spaced closer together as they go up. The shelf supports are then glued down in the recess between the two legs at the intervals that are already marked. Note the gap I left for a wiring channel, and then I use a second strip so that the clamps can hold everything down.
I'm going to use a straight edge and a pencil to lay out the angle of the shelves. On the left side, I measured these. The bottom two are 13 inches, the middle two are 12 inches, the top two are 11 inches. So there's kind of a graduating lineage as it goes up. On the right side is longer and taller than the left sides, and it's curvy and strange. So what I have to do is I have to splay these out to match the angle of the left side, which means the right side will be spaced all kinds of different numbers, which is why this isn't an adjustable bookcase. So I've got to measure these out and mount them individually. It's going to look weird, but look at it.
The gluing procedure is the same, except this side has no wiring channel.
Shelf brackets are all in place. Now it's time to make the shelves.
I cut notches in the shelf for the rear legs and for the wiring channel that runs down the left side of the cabinet.
The shelf is cut and notched for all the parts in here. Now I just put it in. Good fit. Now to make 4 more of them. The shelves are in, but it's plywood, and you can see the plies from the front of the bookcase. That's okay because I planned from the start to put facings on it so that I could have the ply is hidden and also have space for under cabinet lighting to be hidden behind the facing. Now I'm going to use poplar wood to do that. At my hardware store, and probably yours, the locals call it popular wood. So we're going to use popular wood to make a facing. The problem we have with these shelves is that the edges are curved and it's going to be hard to make front pieces that match these curves. So we're going to cheat. I'm going to take a board and put it on top to extend the shelf outward. Then I'm going to take our popular wood here and put it up against the cabinet. So now I've got on the left and right the angle and curve. So I just trace that on the back, and then when I cut my strip, I can make it fit this hole with these curves.
Five minutes later.
Next, I add some trim to the bottom and top of the bookcase edges, mostly to hide the edges of the Luan wood, but also to add some detail.
Holy bouncy boilerplate, it fits!
I'm drilling the hole for the power cord from both directions to avoid tear out.
The bookcase needs a hat, and I'm going to make it out of paddock wood because
It's red.
And it should match nicely with the paint we're going to use on the bookcase. At least that's our hope.
I'm using a combination of glue and screws to hold the hat together, but it doesn't matter because this is the underside and nobody's going to see it.
Later.
Do a flip!
I used the router to give both sides of the arms a rounded edge. This is great because it's very fast, and also because I don't want to sand it, because I'm lazy.
You see how the straight edge of the arm doesn't match the curvature of the side? I have to now sand and contour this to match this contour. And to do that, I'm going to use my very powerful Dad's old Craftsman sander.
Like my father before me.
The contour fits, almost like a professional did it. The right arm construction is pretty much the same as the left arm, except it holds a tray, so I have to cut at an angle here. Then I make all the tray parts. And then glue them together.
8 hours later.
The tray features a hidden USB plug that is 22 millimeters in diameter. Major construction is complete. It's time to move it inside and out of the humidity.
It is green.
Meanwhile,
I shellacked the arms too, so now we can put these on that bookcase.
The USB power cable is on the back of the right arm and against the wall, so I saw no need to drill a hole for it or anything. I can just surface mount it.
Well, that's it for the giant bookcase that's so giant it won't fit on camera. Hopefully I did something during the construction that you can use in your shop to build something as cool as this, or even cooler. If you like this project, we've got a bunch more that you can go look at and a bunch more in the future coming. So, like, subscribe, ring that bell so that you can see future projects. Now we're going to put stuff in our bookcase. See you next time.